We apologize for interrupting your doom scrolling. Now, for some positive leftist news.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt your doom scrolling. It's your boy Malumbo, Congolese American musician / content creator / communist America's favorite sweetheart. And I'm here to tell you the good news, no bad vibes of what's going down in July. Should I wrap all the news? No, I will not. PLN is a member of MeansTV, a worker-owned socialist streaming platform. Stay tuned until the end of the episode for a special 20% discount offer from MeansTV. And find the discount link and code in the description box below. Transport and logistic workers across Europe are rising up to disrupt the flow of arms and military cargo to Israel. From the ports of Greece to airports in France and Italy, unions and rank-and-file workers are refusing complicity in the inhumane violence in Gaza. At the forefront of this movement are airport workers in Paris, backed by the trade unions SUD, Ariane, and CGT Roissy, who have taken a bold stand. As workers in the aviation sector, we categorically refuse to participate directly or indirectly in logistical operations that could contribute to the crimes currently being committed in Gaza. French transport unions are escalating their calls for solidarity across sectors and cities. Quote, "We call on all workers, unionized or not, to refuse to load this cargo, to assert their right to consciousness, and refuse to be complicit in this policy of death." In Greece, the dock workers union, ENEDDP, say that 3 times fast, blocked the unloading of the ship Ever Golden, allegedly carrying military-grade steel bound for Israel. Across Italy, Sweden, and Britain, workers are taking similar action, from dock and airport blockades to targeting arms companies like Elbit Systems. In Sweden, dock workers voted for a full military embargo. In Britain, workers connected to Palestine action, now banned by the Labour government, continue direct resistance. Amid growing repression, European workers are united. SUD Ariane affirmed, "Our job is not to transport war. Our solidarity is with the oppressed, not with war criminals." Europe's music festivals have also become unexpected sites of defiance, where artists are using the stage to challenge Israeli war crimes and Western complicity. From Glastonbury to Zagreb, performers are breaking the silence, undeterred by the backlash for it. At Glastonbury, British duo Bob Dylan led the crowd in chants of "Free, Free Palestine" and "Death, Death to the IDF," denouncing Israeli war crimes including the starvation of children and attacks on civilians queuing for aid. The BBC announced it would edit the performance, while festival organizers distanced themselves, and Prime Minister Keir Starmer labeled the chant quote-unquote hate speech, but the crowd's response, waving Palestinian flags and cheering, told a different story. Australian band Emil and the Sniffers defended Bob Dylan, and the Irish rap group Kneecap, who have also faced bans and media attacks for their vocal support of Palestine. They criticized attempts to portray these artists as isolated incidents, writing that authorities were trying to make it look like Bob Dylan and Kneecap are one-offs, instead of admitting that the status quo has shifted majorly and people are desperate for our governments to listen. They pointed out that throughout the weekend, many musicians raised their voices for Gaza, with widespread support from festival goers. Kneecap called out the UK government's attempt to ban direct action group Palestine Action, stating that Palestine Action is not arming the genocide in Israel, that's Keir Starmer and the British government. At the Grebs In Music Festival, bands like Fontaine's DC and Massive Attack projected footage from Gaza and waved Palestinian flags, imagery conspicuously absent from mainstream media coverage. On stage, Nigerian musician Son Kuti called on Europe's youth to connect global liberation with struggling against capitalism and imperialism at home. Quote, "I know you want to free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan, free Iran. It's a new one every week," he said. Free Europe from right-wing extremism, from fascism, from racism. Free Europe from imperialism. When you do this job, as soon as you do this job, Gaza will be free, Congo will be free, and Sudan will be free. On July 5th, about 400 people from Thunder Bay and nearby communities gathered at Waverley Park to protest plans for an underground facility to store Canada's nuclear waste near Indigenous. The rally, organized by members of Grassy Narrows and Fort Williams First Nations and supported by groups like We the Nuclear Free North, called for the government to reconsider the project's location due to fears of water contamination in the region. Organizer Chrissy Isaacs voiced urgent concerns. Quote, there must be safer alternatives. Storing toxic waste near bodies of water is reckless. We are killing Mother Earth, and now it's our turn to fight for her, just as she's always supported us. We must always protect the communities already affected by this poisoning. After the rally, protesters marched along Red River Road to the Marina Spirit Garden, where speeches continued, amplifying their call for environmental justice. We will link to the Free Grassy Narrows organization below for everyone interested in supporting their fight. In a landmark victory for Indigenous rights and environmental justice, the Yurok tribe of Northern California has successfully reclaimed 47,000 acres of ancestral land along the Klamath River. This return marks the largest land back conservation effort in California's history and comes on the heels of another historic achievement: the removal of 4 major dams on the Klamath River, the largest dam decommissioning project in U.S. history. For decades, this land has been dominated by timber and power companies, exploited to feed an insatiable capitalist economy that left ecological devastation in its wake. Forests were razed, rivers dammed, and the Yurok people, like so many indigenous nations, were criminalized simply for existing on their own land. Now, that land is home again. One of the most vital areas returned is the Blue Creek watershed, a pristine cold water tributary essential to the health of the Klamath River and to the survival of salmon, a species at the heart of Yurok culture and diet. Yurok Wildlife Director Tiana Williams-Clausen said,
every day as Indigenous people, as prayer people, we pray for balance in our ceremonies. Blue Creek is a place of balance.
Yurok Fisheries Manager Barry McCloven Jr. spoke of the emotional and spiritual weight of this achievement. For years, the Yurok fought against powerful corporations, bureaucratic indifference, and decades of colonial theft.
In my lifetime, I didn't believe that these type of things could happen as a young person. Only recently have I really come to believe that dam removal happened because it took so long and there were so many ups and downs in that battle that it was tough. And with the timber company and land back here in our ancestral lands, that was hard to believe for me too as a young person.
Williams-Clausen reflected on the dramatic shift this moment represents.
To get access to that piece of our ancestral territory when I was young, you had to break the law, and that's what we did. But now, being able to see a future where myself and my children never have to experience that again. We don't have to be outlaws to exist in our own place, in our own homeland. That's an amazing feeling.
On July 9th, India witnessed one of the largest coordinated strikes in human history, as over 250 million workers and farmers walked off the job onto the streets in defiance of the right-wing Modi government. From the industrial belt of Jharkhand and Kerala to the ports, banks, and airports across the nation, entire sectors were paralyzed in a show of mass resistance. The strike, called by the Central Trade Union CTU and backed by the country's major farmer organizations, was a direct challenge to the government's assault on labor rights and its deepening alliance with corporate power. The demands were clear: withdraw the anti-worker labor codes, stop the privatization of public sector jobs, guarantee a national minimum wage of Rs 26,000, and enact a legal minimum support price for farm produce. Despite states' repression, legal threats, and media blackout, workers and farmers stood firm. In places like the Kochi refinery, workers defied court orders to join the strike. Across the country, they blocked highways, picketed factory gates, and disrupted train services. In the capital, Delhi, a central rally brought together the CTU and Samyukta Kisan Morcha, the SKM. Addressing the massive gatherings, Tapan Sen, General Secretary of CITU, stated that the strike demolishes the myths created by the Modi government about the so-called economic prosperity, and revealed how, under Modi's decade-long rule, the condition of the working class in India has gone from bad to worse. Sen warned against the government's deepening ties with U.S. capital, including a proposed trade deal that he said would further erode the rights of Indian workers and farmers. Amarjit Kaur, a general secretary of the AITUC, said, quote, "The attempt to divide the working class so that the interests of its corporate bosses are protected was defeated by a successful strike." Kaur reminded the government this was the 4th national strike since 2020, warning that unless the regime reverses course and takes back the 4 draconian labor codes, the working classes would escalate their fight with more intensity. Across languages, sectors, and regions, the Indian working class is united and determined not to be crushed under the wheels of Modi's corporate machine. All power to the workers. In a move against decades of neo-colonial extraction, Niger has nationalized its electricity utility and taken full control of uranium production from French giant Orano. The actions announced on state television were framed as a necessary response to what the Nigerian government called the irresponsible, illegal, and disloyal behavior of the French state-owned company. The uranium nationalization focused on Somaire, a subsidiary of Orano, which has operated in Niger since 1971. As Sani Adamo of the Revolutionary Organization for New Democracy explained, Somaire will now belong exclusively to Niger, and the country will benefit from the entire value chain of uranium exploration. On the same day, Niger also announced the nationalization of Nigelec, the country's electricity company. Although previously 99% then owned, Nigelec operated autonomously and was exposed to foreign influence, including investment by the French Development Agency. With Niger still heavily dependent on energy imports from Nigeria, the government aims to accelerate domestic electrification and reduce vulnerability. Looking forward, Niger hopes not only to become energy self-sufficient, but a next exporter of power. Adamo says the government is reviving plans to scale up solar energy alongside fossil fuel projects. In reclaiming its energy sector, Niger is taking a critical step toward breaking the chains of colonial dependency and equality. Further, the Confederation of Sahel States, CSS, comprising Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, has launched the Alliance of Agricultural Seed Producers of the Sahel, also called APSA Sahel. Announced by the Burkina Faso's Minister of Agriculture, the initiative marks a strategic shift in the region's fight for food and political sovereignty. APSA Sahel aims to develop produce and distribute high-quality seeds adapted specifically to Sahel's climate. Central to his vision is the free movement of seeds across member states, creating a unified seed market resilient to both environmental shocks and foreign influence. The Alliance is now working on a comprehensive action plan that will outline mechanisms for seed certification, regional research collaboration, and the expansion of local distribution networks. In a region where access to quality seeds remain limited and climate conditions are worsening, this initiative shows strategic foresight. Rooted in shared struggle and ambition, the APSA Sahel offers a bottom-up alternative to corporate agriculture built on local control and ecological adaptation. If one word could capture the enduring spirit of Vietnam-Cuba relations, it would be Dong Chai, comrade. As President Ho Chi Minh once said, our countries are far apart geographically, but morally, we are united as one. And over decades, that moral unity has turned into real-world collaboration. None more vital than the ongoing agricultural partnership that now sees Vietnam helping Cuba regain control over its food supply. In 2025, this cooperation has reached a major milestone. Vietnam's Agri-VMA company, working alongside Cuban farmers, achieved remarkable results with a pilot rice project in Los Palacios in just over 3 months. 16 hectares of land planted with Vietnamese CT16 rice seed yielded an average of 7.2 tons per hectare, more than double Cuba's typical output of 3 tons. These aren't just numbers, they're lifelines. Despite its enduring own US-imposed challenges, Cuba delivered over 1 million COVID-19 vaccine doses to Vietnam at the height of the pandemic. In return, Vietnam pledged that as long as it continues farming, Cuba will never go hungry. The partnership is grounded in mutual respect and shared socialist values, aiming not for independence but for sovereignty. Vietnam's model is now expanding to over 1,000 hectares, expected to yield more than 10 tons of rice per hectare by the next season. Cuban officials have even proposed scaling up to 100,000 hectares to meet domestic demand. The enduring partnership between these two socialist nations is rooted not only in history but in a shared vision for the future. Vietnam and Cuba are now exploring cooperation in green technology, food processing, pharmaceuticals, renewable energy, and tourism. In an age when global politics is too often dominated by profit, extraction, and betrayal, the Vietnam-Cuba alliance remains a rare symbol of what internationalism can and should be: principled, reciprocal, and rooted in people's power. Thousands across Serbia continue to protest, demanding snap elections, an end to police harassment, and the release of activists detained over the past week. The protests, which have grown since late June, were sparked by the deadly collapse of a railroad canopy in Novi Sad that killed over a dozen people and highlighted deep structural failings. Support for the movement continues to grow beyond students, with legal experts, cultural workers, and academics joining in. Graduates from Belgrade's Faculty of Dramatic Arts declared, quote, "Most of us work in public space, art, and media, and we will not be silent. We will be a voice of solidarity and support for colleagues on the front lines of the fight for the rule of law and basic human values. An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us." Demonstrations have spread even to long marginalized regions, signaling growing momentum. The people's voices are rising louder than ever, refusing to be silenced by the repression or fear. In a landmark victory for Canada's labor movement, over 500 Uber drivers in Greater Victoria, British Columbia have unionized, marking the first ever successful union certification of app-based workers in Canadian history. The drivers will now be represented by United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW, Local 1518, BC's, British Columbia's largest private sector union. The certification, announced on the 2nd of July, is a historic breakthrough in the long fight to organize precarious platform workers. The victory comes just 1 year after Uber launched in Victoria and only months after the NDP government in BC passed Bill 48, reforming employment legislation to recognize online platform workers as employees for limited purposes, such as minimum wage, mileage allowance, and workers' compensation. Crucially, the law also clarified that companies like Uber are, in fact, the employers of gig workers, requiring them to recognize and bargain with unions. That legislative shift, alongside British Columbia's 2022 return to card check unionization, helped pave the way for the driver's success. Under card check rules, unions can certify if 55% of workers sign union cards, avoiding employer interference during secret ballot votes. Since its reinstatement, union certifications in the province have surged by nearly 200%. This move forces Uber to the bargaining table and sets the stage for Canada's first collective agreement for gig economy workers. This defining moment for the labor movement in Canada, said UFCW, Canada's national president Sean Haggerty. The certification of Uber drivers in Victoria shows that workers in every sector, even in the platform economy, can organize and win. The Indian Andhra Pradesh High Court has ruled to affirm that transgender women are women under the law, extending critical protections against domestic abuse. This landmark decision extends constitutional guarantees of dignity and equality and offers hope for a more inclusive, equitable India. This judgment sets a vital precedent for courts across India and beyond, encouraging the legal system to embrace the lived reality of transgender individuals rather than outdated stereotypes. Moreover, the ruling inspires activists, allies, and policymakers to push for broader reforms that safeguard transgender rights in healthcare, education, and employment. It challenges society to confront deep-rooted biases and to create spaces where diversity is not merely tolerated but celebrated. Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn will found a new political party in the UK, signaling a potential seismic shift in British left-wing politics, reflecting deep dissatisfaction with the current Labour leadership and the desire for a more radical, grassroots-driven alternative. Invoking a choice between socialism or barbarism, Sultana frames the new party as a fundamental ideological battle for the future of the UK. The move highlights ongoing tensions within the Labour Party and the broader left, revealing fractures that could reshape the political landscape ahead of the 2029 general election. We hope this emerging coalition of independent MPs, activists, and campaigners can build a sustainable movement capable of challenging the entrenched political order. With billionaires backing multiple parties, the call for a united, people-powered left alternative is urgent. After years of waiting, complex administrative hurdles, and endless negotiations, the massive solar project in Nober, Burkina Faso, is coming to life under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Carrying 270 hectares, this will be one of the largest solar power plants in the sub-region. This project is essential for local production and industrial transformation. Beyond energy production, the plant includes a storage system that will enhance grid stability and address intermittent energy supply issues. Currently, Burkina Faso's largest power plant is 42 megawatts, so this addition of 150 megawatts will be a significant step forward in the country's quest for energy independence. And in late June, Burkina Faso marked the 7th edition of its National Tree Day with an unprecedented campaign to plant 5 million trees within a single hour. This massive environmental effort, inspired by the legacy of former President Thomas Sankara, united thousands of citizens, grassroots groups, government ministries, and international partners. This event was launched in Manga, with government leaders underscoring the importance of reforestation for the country's future. Burkina Faso aims to plant at least 20 million trees by the end of 2025, while establishing medicinal plant nurseries across all provinces to strengthen local health and climate resilience. Environment Minister Roger Barro invoked Sankara's historic fight against deforestation, poaching, and forest fires. Since its launch in 2018, National Tree Day has mobilized the entire nation to restore forest cover and ecosystems, carrying forward Sankara's vision of a greener, healthier Burkina Faso. If you have good news for the current month, please send your stories to mexi@protonmail.com. As mentioned, we have a special offer for viewers for MeansTV, which is a worker-owned cooperative dedicated to supporting and producing anti-capitalist media. The streaming service hosts us along with other rad creators like Second Thought and Luna Oy, full-length documentaries like Abby Martin's Gaza Fights for Freedom, and Means original content like Means Morning TV, Seriously Wrong Papas and Boys, and much more. We're happy to announce that we're now able to offer viewers a discount on joining MeansTV. If you sign up using our link and code, which is MEXI, MEXIE, you'll get a 20% off your first month, which comes to $7.99. Or you can go with the annual option and get 20% off the entire year. Setting up using our code not only directly contributes to the financial stability of the Means Cooperative Media Project, but is also a great way to support our channel. So, if you have the means, consider taking us up on the discount. The link and code are in the description below. Thank you for Javi for the positive news jams. Thank you to Cosmo for the positive news background. Thank you to Mexi and Catherine for the script writing and production. And thank you to the Hazels for editing this video. And to yours truly for posting this one. Oh wait, for hosting this one. Malumbo, Freudian Slip. If you'd like to support the show, please go to patreon.com, Positive Leftist News. Or you can give us a one-time tip via PayPal. The link is in the description box below. See you guys. Bye.